Welcome to Bill Myers Inspires. Today, we have a gentleman with us named Bradley Lewis, who has something very, very interesting, and I believe something quite important that he is about to share with the world. So first, let me introduce you to Bradley Lewis. Bradley, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. So Bradley, let's start off. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I think that'll help get us going here.
Yeah, absolutely. My name, again, I'm Bradley Lewis. I am from Birmingham, Alabama. I've been in real estate all my life. That's pretty much my craft per se. You know, I grew up building homes and custom homes with my dad, and he passed away 26 years ago. And at that point, I started my own business there and got into the real estate investments. And through that process, you know, trying to process the loss of him, you know, he was, my dad was my best friend, you know. We worked together every day for my young adult life, you know, until the time he passed. He was young when he passed away at 49 years old, you know, so 26 years ago, yeah. So at that point, I kind of veered into real estate investing from that perspective. But I've always been an entrepreneur. You know, from real estate, I've tried and well, not just tried, but had my hands in other type of businesses as well. You know, I'm 52 years young, newly married, and I'm a first-time father at 52 years old now. I have my wife and I have an 8-month-old little girl that really is the catalyst to the iWTNS app itself. That's really how it came about, you know.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say congratulations on both fronts to your marriage, as well as congratulations on your 8-month-old. Let's not go any further. Let's not push that.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So, yeah.
So I'm trying to stay as young as possible, you know.
That's the name of the game, brother. That's the name of the game. So
exactly. So
now, tell us a bit about what you've been working on. I believe it to be something important, and I think the world may be waiting for this thing. So I'm going to let you explain to us exactly what it is we're talking about.
Absolutely. Listen, I'll be happy to share it with you, and we're trying to share it to the world and share it to the masses. You know, we think it's vitally important. With what's going on in the world today, you know, where we are as a society. This country is something, there's a lot more to fear these days. I think speaking for myself and probably majority of people of color, you know, concerned about, you know, we have concerns about Russia invading the Ukraine. But at the same time, we got major problems here in the U.S. Right. And the reality is it's history repeating itself all over again. You know, through the Vietnam War, you know, we were fighting the Vietnam War, but, you know, and not only that, you go back to World War II and soldiers coming home, people of color coming home from war, and they're fighting for other people's freedom when they weren't even free at home.
Yes, sir.
You know, and when you look at the history of things, it's just a vicious cycle that we have to figure out a way to stop it, right? Or to level the playing field, so to speak.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
So
indeed,
my 8-month-old daughter is the catalyst to this app, this program. My wife and I, you know, found out we were pregnant, and which my wife is also older as well. You know, I didn't marry a 30-year-old. You know, I'm 52 now. My wife's 50.
Wow.
You know, so when we found out that, you know, we were expecting, and it's both of our first kid, you know, we were super excited. Naturally, this is something both of us has always wanted. You know, and she mentioned during that process, you know, that she wanted to give me a boy. right? And asked me what did I prefer, just casual conversation. And I said, my first response is, I just want a healthy child. That's far more important than anything at this point, right? Right. But then it kind of led into a more serious conversation because during this time, we're sitting there watching all the media outlets reporting on George Floyd incident and so many countless other people of color being murdered and slain by police departments across the country.
Yeah.
And so that led into a conversation about, well, if I have my choice, I think I would rather have a little girl because she may not be as threatening to police officers, or non-Black or non-people of color as a Black kid would be, or future Black young man, right? Okay. So it was a conversation that we had that was, number one, very necessary, but it really honed in on the perspective of where we are right now, that we're having to have conversations about. Even, it's one thing to have a conversation that we always have with our youth, our kids, about the talk we have to have when interacting with the police. We're now thinking about it even before we have kids, is the way I see that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, wow, we're trying to stay away from that area that could put them in harm's way, even before conception almost,
Right.
So through that, and I'm watching all the protests that's going on around the world. And I'm like, okay, well, everyone's watching. We have everyone's attention. If we have everyone's attention, what's next? Because if we don't have any solutions, then all of this is for nothing. It falls flat, right? And we don't want to see that happen ever again. So, and through the research and watching all the interviews, the one thing that was constantly said and repeated was that people of color are pulled over 1.5 to 2 times more than non-people of color. And these areas, people of color in in specific areas they live in are targeted much more because of the school to prison pipelines. Because this is your class of people that can't afford to hire or retain good legal counsel to fight this in court, And the reality is, most times, if you go back and you look at the records, and most of these kids that end up in prison, their criminal careers, as we always hear, through the media outlets, starts at 14, 15 years old with some small encounter where it may, it could be as simple as driving with no license, but the way it's reported is, hey, they broke the law. The law says it's illegal to drive without driver's license, right? And we get that. But that one incident follows them for years to come because they don't have the money to fight it. They get into court. When they get to court, you got a prosecutor there that's going to milk them for everything that they can to get time. And now they're caught up in the system over something very simple. And it takes them years to get out of it, if they ever get out of it, and not end up in the system at an early age where now they're headed to prison.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. It's a slippery slope, man. And it paves the way once you have that encounter and once you get in the system. Boy, oh boy. I mean, now we've got, and so now you spend your whole lifetime trying to get out from under something that started when you were 14 years old. You know what I mean? You don't even have an opportunity, a fair shake, you know what I mean? Or second chance, really. You are pretty much labeled at that point. And, we can write the rest of that
goes
script,
from there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and I could have easily been a product of that. I never forget. Luckily, I grew up in a household. My dad was also a pastor, and I have much respect for my father. I saw him do some things and witness things that I'm still at awe about. When I say, I watched a man give a man his suit off of his back so that he could attend church. I mean, this literally happened, It took his only suit to give it to another gentleman so he could attend church, right? Mm-hmm. But early on in life, I was one of those kids that, growing up in PK and everyone knew it. So I was a little bit more of a risk taker, in a sense, early on, and ended up getting my driver's license and then getting suspended, right? But from that, it led to multiple tickets for driving on suspended license and multiple arrests because I wouldn't tell my dad, you know what I'm saying? So I'd end up down the road getting pulled over again and got this outstanding warrant or a ticket for driving on suspended driver's license. This is at 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
And because of my father being the man he was, he would jump in front of me to take care of these things so that this is not my life, Mm-hmm. And I can tell you right now, I know it happened at least 5 times, so it was constant in the little town, the area I grew up in from my teenage years from 14 through 18. Mm-hmm. It was very prevalent for the police to be, you go around a curve and the police are standing in the middle of the road checking for driver's license. Nothing else, right? Just standing in the middle of the road, flagging down traffic and want to see your license and registration.
Yeah.
You hadn't committed a crime, but they checking for it, right? So I didn't get tickets from speed or anything. It was because of all of these roadblocks, which is a tool that was always used, right? You don't see it as much now, but that was a tool that they used a lot then. Mm-hmm. But because of the things my dad did, it kept me from getting caught up in that system. And I made a decision early on that, no, I'm not going to be that guy. I can definitely be a different guy.
Right.
And I turned and decided to go in a different direction that so many young men don't get the opportunity to do.
Right.
They don't have someone behind them to support them, to help them, to guide them, into life, into adulthood, and understanding that at 16 years old, a young man's brain is not developed to the point that they can truly understand what's happening in the legal system.
Yeah. And, you've got so many issues to contend with. You've got, single parent households. You probably got a dad that's already caught up in that system and is, taking another tour away from home again and then again, and all these sorts of,
Right.
So it's rough, man. I get it. So your concerns for your newborn are certainly valid in the nation that we live in and the times we live in right now. So that is for sure. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. And that's what led to the creation. Through all of that, I wanted to, I tell people that as a grown man watching everything going on in the world, we're all sitting at home because of COVID, and everything. And man, I cried real tears for days, watching the execution of George Floyd and all, like I said, there's so many others. And it got to a point for me that I couldn't watch it anymore. And the only thing I was thinking about is I need to do something.
Yeah. What can I do? What can I do?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And it was not necessarily a challenge. I asked myself, I said, you can write a check to some organizations, right? And contribute to the cause, at my age now, and I'm not an old man, don't get me wrong, but to get out and stomp the streets and protest and do all those things, I leave that for the little bit younger people. I try to be a little bit more strategic in my approach to things, and understanding that I knew that I just felt like writing a check to give to an organization wouldn't go as far as I would like to see it go, and so I started just trying to think of ways that I can contribute to this, and understanding the research that I had, the articles and everything I'd been watching and understanding that, I started to think about how can everyone have an attorney, right? So as a businessman, from day one, I've always had an attorney on retainer, because if you're going to do business, you have to have
right.
And understanding that in that relationship and what's it going to take to make sure that everyone can have access to an attorney. And through that process and looking at the numbers, that's when iWTNS was born. Hey, I think we can create a program that will give everyone legal counsel in the time of need, right in that very moment when they're being pulled over by the police officer, or if they're walking down the street, or anything, police approach their home, that they can hit their app or say, hey, Siri, iWTNS app, and boom, there it is, a live attorney, their video conference to speak on your behalf, where essentially, as a citizen, we have the right to execute our Fifth Amendment rights not to speak and let our attorney speak on our behalf. So that's the process.
Yeah. So I want to back up a second. Give me just a second, Bradley, because I want to. You sent some a little bit of literature here, and let me wade through this just for a second, just to make sure that the audience is very clear what it is that we're talking about. Okay, so a life saved is a life valued, inspired by the senseless acts of violence between law enforcement and citizens during any encounter, i.e. traffic violations or misdemeanor petty crimes. Bradley Lewis, founder and CEO of iWTNS, spelled iWTNS, has developed an application that will allow its users to be assisted with legal counsel on demand in real time during a time of contention where law enforcement is involved. This application will allow a legal professional to be visible, witness the traffic stop, and assist the user. The driver and live professional consultant can record the situation and later assess its contents for a potential judicial review. iWTNS users can now, without fear, confidently and safely navigate traffic stops as well as other future high-risk situations. A user of the app will most likely be a driver or passenger who may find themselves in a situation with potential malice intent. The message of iWTNS, a life saved is a life valued, provides a level of peace of mind, not only for the driver and passengers, but also for family members. Access to iWTNS user app is a simple download that comes with added comfort for a small monthly membership. Also, there are educational materials and tutorials on best use of the application. Now, so just to bring us up to speed, I just want to take a minute to carefully walk through so that people, because when we use the word application, we're talking about an app. Okay, so
right.
I think it's important to distinguish that we're talking about that, but even though we know that some people do, but it's now all about apps. Download an app.
That's right.
So we're talking about an app.
That's right.
And there's a couple of other things, if you don't mind, just let me wade through this. It says nationally, there are almost 20 million traffic stops a year. Over the past 5 years, a New York Times study found that police officers have killed more than 400 drivers or passengers who are not wielding a gun or knife or under pursuit of a violent crime, a rate of more than one a week. In 2020, a New York University study found that ethnic drivers are 20% more likely to be stopped in comparison to Caucasian drivers and are 1.5 to 2 times more likely to have their vehicles searched. Given these circumstances, the mission of iWTNS is to help those who are pulled over navigate this stressful time with professional legal counsel on the spot. With the push of a button, the iWTNS app has the capability to allow users to teleconference with a trusted legal professional while the traffic stop is occurring. This will reduce tension and provide equal representation that will guide them through the traffic stop, minimizing any potential violent activity. Now, when I received the information on this, Bradley, I was very excited because I thought, again, here is another tool in the toolbox that can be useful to individuals. I mean, certainly useful because, now I'm going to share with you, I am the son of a police officer, 54 years in Indianapolis, Indiana. And so, but I must also share with you that I do not feel any particular cover or any particular comfort when I am stopped by the police. I feel the exact same terror, essentially, because I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know that my daddy is going to be able to help me in this situation. First of all, didn't nobody ask you who your daddy was? You know what I mean? And that's the kind of response.
Yeah, absolutely.
It becomes very aggressive, and your heart starts pounding, and then you don't know how this is going to go down. But I know that I didn't rob the liquor store. I know that I'm not carrying a gun, never owned one. I know that I wasn't speeding. Right. So again, it puts me in a position where I'm, quite terrified. Actually, I mean, I had I mean, and I've been stopped, I'm 55 years old. So brother, I know what you are saying. And this is very real. And so now let's take it from there, because I believe that this is obviously inspired by your newborn and not wanting to bring your child into the same world and the same circumstances that you and I have lived through, and certainly our ancestors have lived through. Absolutely. Even more. So now talk to me about this a little bit more. I mean, because I am excited about this app, and I do think that it has a utility. Now, can you explain to me how the inner workings of this? So would you have, a team of attorneys sort of on call? I mean, how does that work? Because it all sounds good, but you don't want to make the call. You don't want to make the call and ain't nobody answering that phone.
Ain't nobody there.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'd definitely be happy to go into that, right? So the way the app is designed, we have attorneys signing up to provide their service, right? And understand that their service is a paid service. They're not doing this for free.
Okay.
I felt that was very important because we want to be able to hold our attorneys accountable as well, right? And if we are paying for a service, then a rate for a service, then we expect a certain quality, a certain level of service as well.
Okay.
And not a thing of where their people or attorneys are donating their time because they feel they want to help, right? So I felt that's very important. That's the very reason we have a monthly subscription fee of $9.99. Because the attorneys are paid on a rate of $200 an hour, and that's broken down into 15-minute increments. Mm-hmm. So if they're on a call for 12 minutes, they still get paid for 15 minutes or $50. If they're on a call for 22 minutes, they're paid $100, and so on, right? So we want to set a competitive rate for the attorneys so that we can make sure we have plenty of attorneys for coverage.
Right.
Okay, so every attorney, as they sign up for different states, essentially, so as the attorneys register, we also get their address in what state they're licensed to practice law in. And the way the system works is it's to draw if you're in Indianapolis now, right, and if you were to hit this app, it will start off reaching for an attorney that's a part of our network that's within your same city.
Okay.
And then within your same county, if no one is in your city, then within your county, and if not in your county, then within the state. Okay. Right. So every attorney will be licensed to practice law in whatever state that call is
originating.
Started from.
Okay.
Originating from. Exactly. Because that's important, because laws change from state to state. You have different laws and things
different
that take
jurisdictions
place.
too. So I mean, legally that becomes its own can of worms that you're not. Your license doesn't mean a thing here, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's right. So we want attorneys that are, like I said, ideally the same city, next level, same county, next level within the state of which the transaction is going on, taking place. All right. So, and that's a growing list of attorneys that right now is in excess of over 1,500.
Wow.
And more coming on every day. We're, kind of behind the 8 ball here, behind the gun, pushing everything out, finishing the development of the app out so that we can start all these attorneys can start signing up and people can also start registering. But that's the premises of it, is so that you have a local attorney. So if something happens, this attorney represents you during this incident with law enforcement. This attorney is also within your community, ideally. And if there's something that you need to challenge and want to take it to court, then this is your first line of defense. You have an attorney here that now can represent you on the next level. And part of that is you can retain the attorney outside of the network at that point, or if, depending on the situation of the case, at some point I'm going to want to start looking at and how much more can iWTNS do to even start covering some of those costs. But initially it's set up and designed to cover that initial interaction with police, to get people home safely and stop right there. But at the same time, if there's a need to go farther, then the subscriber and the attorney, when that call ends, their information is shared there through the app. So the subscriber know who the attorney is, and they can now reach and talk to him offline.
So they'll be provided contact information with that attorney and vice versa.
Yes.
So there is a means of connecting the dot. Now, so now, so I'm going to challenge a little bit here.
Sure.
So now what happens if it's an individual who, doesn't have the kind of means, which is probably a lot of the people, to effectively retain quality legal counsel. So Bob was the attorney who, I contacted when I got stopped. I'm in communication with Bob. Bob then turns around and tells me, man, I charge, $300 an hour. And for me to represent you on this case, they're going to ballpark it or they're going to flat rate it. They're going to come up with something. But they say, it's not hundreds, it's thousands. So now I'm sitting there going, well, Bob, I can't afford that. Okay. Right. Which I would imagine is more common than not, because if people had it like that, you know what I mean? We wouldn't have the issue as far as legal representation of people of color, black people, low income folk and all that sort of thing. And they wouldn't be relegated to a public defender who's going to ship them right on out. You know what I mean? With the plea deal. Exactly. And all of a sudden now I wasn't guilty, but I got to be guilty so I can only get probation, but it's on my record. Again, I'm in the system. So the way that game works. Exactly. So I'm curious. So I'm poking holes at it, and hopefully there's something, helpful even in this conversation. But I would imagine that maybe what it is that you have, maybe there's a dialogue that can occur with organizations like the ACLU. Because there are organizations that are there for those things. So maybe there's a referral or some sort of means that there's I don't know. I mean, I'm making up stuff because I want to see your business succeed. I certainly believe in this, but I have to look at, again, where are the challenges. I don't think you'll have a problem getting the $9 a month. I mean, we pay that for Netflix. I mean,
Well, but here, and we've, went through and done an extensive amount of research on this, as they call it in the business, new product discovery, to understand if this is a viable product that the people would want to see and have available to them. And in that, this is one of the questions. Okay, someone that's can barely pay the $9.99 a month or $100 a year, essentially for this type of insurance, per se. If something goes down, how are they going to retain that attorney? And I can tell you right now, the response from donations, people want to donate to this app is tremendous. That, people that want to contribute in a way that feel like, they are privileged enough not to have the same problems we have. Right. And they want to contribute and help.
So establishing in a way. So parallel, or in addition to this, is establishing a legal fund. Okay. I just want to make sure I understood you correctly. Okay.
That's right. And that legal fund is being created through donations from people that want to be a part, be involved in helping with justice reform. Okay. So within that donation class is where we will look at, and we're still putting things in place, right? Policies, procedures, and how to determine who needs this revenue, right, to pay for their legal fees because they can't afford to do it or something like that, right? But I can tell you the without a doubt, the response is tremendous through the roof. So there will be a large portion of funds, even from the app itself, that we are setting aside funds for the next level, right? To be able to provide that that attorney for legal coverage. But also the great thing about that is when an attorney takes on a client through the app and they facilitated a transaction there, we have them at a rate of $200 an hour, which if it's a situation that goes to court, they'll still be bound by that $200 an hour type of rate, and sometimes it'll be a flat fee, if it's just traffic violation type stuff, whatever. So those things make it simple for us. And I do believe that this app will be strong enough and have the ability to command certain pay rates from attorneys, say, hey, this is what we'll pay you to cover this, but make sure that everyone that we can cover is covered, at no cost to them. Right.
Wow. Yeah, it's a complicated thing once you start to look at the back end. I mean, front end stuff always can sound really good, but I'm an entrepreneur myself, so I understand once you got to get in the weeds and you got to make this make sense because it sounds good, but you immediately start looking for the holes,
Absolutely. And you want people to do that. You can't build a good business plan, a good business model if it has holes in it, right? You have to poke holes in it. And the question becomes, as a company or as an entrepreneur myself, can we fill those holes? And it makes sense, right? So, and we feel we can because the price point of the app itself should demand quite a bit of actual subscribers in the millions without a doubt. And the great thing about it is, we know that this app will help people of color more than anyone, but this app is for everyone, not just people of color, So when you look at the numbers in itself, the amount of subscribers versus the amount of actual interactions, the subscribers should, should surpass the amount of actual interactions or calls that's having to go out at a very high number, so that we're building that war chest, literally every single month, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are supporting the subscribers on a high level. We want to make sure that the attorneys are supporting the drivers, subscribers on a very high level. We expect the attorneys to, if there's considered a minor infraction where an officer violates a person's rights, we expect that attorney to file suit on that subscriber's behalf.
Okay.
And this is the only way we want to get to a point where, police officers have to stop and think 3 or 4 times before they make that next move.
Yeah.
And the only way you can do that is you have to inundate the system with lawsuits after lawsuits on top of lawsuits and start winning some verdicts from these lawsuits. And you got, all of these now payouts having to go out, and it all boils down to dollars and cents.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But if we protect our subscribers vigorously, we can affect change. We're going to go to the next level with this, right? Meaning iWTNS has plans on finding the best lobbyists in the business and funding them to go to Washington, D.C. and push the initiatives that we want to see change, the police reform, justice reform, all of these things. You can't make change or affect change without money. We can pound the streets and do it on a local level, and the president can fly around to the different areas on Air Force One or Marine One.
Right.
Get back to DC and it falls flat.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe he should have loaded up all the senators and Congress people on Air Force One and let them fly with him to these areas and then go back, right? But we've got to stop these things from falling flat. And the only way we can do that is we have to be prepared to put the revenue, the funds behind it, put our money where our mouth is. This is how we say that we are serious about this, and change is going to happen. It's inevitable at that point, So that's the mission of our witness.
Man, that's exciting. So let me throw a couple of other scenarios, because every scenario that we just mentioned seemed to center around the traffic stop. Okay, but I ain't at the traffic stop. I'm at the mall, and I'm in the store, and the security guy keeps eyeballing me, and he's following me through this thing, and now he's approaching. He's up on me. Okay, so now I got my phone, and now I'm gonna hit an app, right? iWTNS. Now what happens?
When you hit that app, within a matter of seconds, there's going to be a live attorney on that device via video conference to speak for you, right? So, and also when you subscribe to this app, you will upload your driver's license, your vehicle insurance, registration, and then any other information you may want your attorney to know, right? For instance, if there's a medical condition, right? If you are, a parent and your kid has some mental challenges and anxiety, and they take a medication for that, right? You can put that information, that's voluntarily that you can do this. We don't make anyone upload anything they don't want to, outside of your driver's license, your ID, your verification. But I personally feel the more information you put in, the better, because now that attorney can speak for your behalf and know what else is going on with you, so that if they need to instruct or an officer or whatever to get someone else out there, because they may not be equipped to handle that situation, right? So this gives that opportunity, because we've seen that happen as well, where, people have mental things going on and the police just shot and killed them. That's
I think that was the Elijah McClain piece out in Colorado, I believe, that he had autism, and which is a whole other piece, man.
Whole other spectrum.
But nonetheless,
absolutely.
Okay, so now let me ask you this. And again, I'm not trying to put you on the carpet, but
no, not at all. I welcome all questions.
So now when you mention the business of folks can voluntarily offer up medical info. Okay. Now, I've been the caretaker of my mom for 10 years, and I'm just telling you the difficulty of the HIPAA laws, and I think they're silly because to the point where I believe that your information, certain vital information, i.e. stuff like an illness or some sort of chronic condition that you have should be not something that we sit around and go, shh, we can't talk about. We don't bring that stuff up. And it's like, I think it's self-defeating while we're trying to be so private about it, it's like, it ain't a private issue. A lot of these things are not really, again, from a personal opinion, but because we have these laws in place that have convoluted. So I would be very curious how the lawyers processing and in the setup of this business look at things like that, because I think that we have a lot of laws that are self-defeating. I mean, I think they don't. I mean, you know what I mean? That's just not my opinion. I'm just saying, trying to work through these things. It's like, I don't own my mom's medical records. The doctors have them, but she's got an endocrinologist. She's got a primary care, and they don't talk to each other. And that's so everybody got the file but me, and I'm just like, well, how does this work when one hand don't know what the other one's doing most of the time? So you guys have got it so protected. You protected the information from yourselves, right?
Exactly. You've locked it down.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
So no one can
anyway, I didn't mean to
help you in an emergency.
I didn't mean to take away from the conversation, but there's just things, man, that, but anyway, I digress.
Absolutely. Well, the great thing about what you're asking me, and it's a very good question, a legitimate question. The reality is this information becomes voluntarily, right? So if you decide that you want this information on your profile, just in case something happens, you're doing that strictly because you want to. It's not a requirement of the app. It's just there for you, just in case, if you're comfortable with doing that, right? So, like, for instance, I'm a licensed carrier. I'm thinking that more than likely, I'm going to put that I'm a licensed carrier on my profile. So if something happens, then yes, I have a gun. I have a license to carry. My attorney now know it, and my attorney can now let that officer know it, because I'm not speaking to him. I'm letting the attorney speak on my behalf. So he's now relaying the proper information, so that it can't be a situation of, I didn't tell them that I had a firearm in the car. Now, we already know how that can go as well. There's examples all the way across the board that even when we are licensed, doing everything completely according to the law and our constitutional rights, and the trigger is still pulled.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But we want to give people the ability to provide as much as they are comfortable providing.
Fair enough.
Again, eyewitness do not require that at all. And as long as they are providing it at their own free will, then there's nothing that any HIPAA law or anything can say about it, because we didn't dive into people's medical records or anything like that. They divulged that on their own because they felt it would help them. And
they waived their right to that. They supplied the information and hit the little check box. It has all the legalese. It says, you did this all on your. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Exactly.
So now, when can we? What is your estimated time frame here to get this out?
This app actually started under development in August of 21. And it has been diligently pushed every day because this is all being built out, right? This is not a app of grab a piece from here and here and here, So it's a lot of proprietary features and software and techniques that has went into developing and building out this
network
app.
You're building a network. I mean, so beyond the app, I mean, in order to connect the dots to all these agencies and different states and attorney. Yeah, I mean, that's quite a bit more involved, so.
And we are slated for this app to hit the market in March, which is next month. So we are 30 days away. Less than 30 days. I'm talking to my developers daily in their progress, and everything's progressing along on schedule. Now, there has been, excuse me, at one moment we were shooting for March, about the middle of March, around the March 15th. But one of the social media influencers did a little video about this app, and it just went haywire. Things had over 200,000 plus views, and it just blew up, and there's some features that we wanted to add, but thought we would be able to add them later. Let's get the app out into market first, and then because it'll take the next 3-4 years, and probably for years to come, there'll always be some development and build out on the app, right? It's one of those things that'll constantly be evolving. But because of the response we have, there are some pieces that we're going to do manually that we have to now go ahead and do automated. So because of that, it may push the time frame back, by 2-3 weeks tops, but which would push it back to the very end of March, the last week, or within the first week of April at the latest. That's because, but we've got to make sure it's right when it comes out. And with all the responses, I set up an email just for people to, info@iWTNS.com, right? And we set that email up, and man, within a matter of 4 or 5 days, we're looking at over 7,000 emails from people wanting to either help, how can they donate, where to donate, can they pre-register, and attorneys wanting to sign up and what they need to do. So with that information that says, hey, no, this thing has got to be fully automated from day one so that these systems are taking care of this.
Yeah. Well, man, that is just around the corner. That is just around the corner. And and again, it's much needed. So now do me a favor. Do you have your cell phone handy?
I do.
Okay. Show me how this would work. I mean, I know you don't have it up, but okay, so an encounter. Someone has just stopped you. So, hey, sir, Bradley, I'm stopping you right now. And what are you doing? Again, I'm starting the harassment, or I noticed you hanging out here, whatever it is. A lot of times it just starts like you're already accused of something, man.
Right.
So now what do you do? Walk us through each little step. So I'm getting ready. I want your ID. So I'm already there. I want your ID.
So, what we do is simply, excuse me. Hey, Siri, iWitness app. Once you do that, and that you don't see anything up here yet because of where we are in the development, okay? And that's all you do is, hey, Siri. At that point, it's going to connect you directly to the attorney within a matter of seconds. You don't say nothing. Even if you're holding your device because you're walking, right? You hold your hands here clearly where they can be seen, and you don't say a word, because what's going to happen when that attorney comes onto that line, they already have your information. That's automatic. So they don't have to search for you. They don't have to do anything. When that call is connected, that attorney already know your name, has your driver's license, everything right there. And they literally present it on the device for you. This is so-and-so. But before that happens, they're going to ask a couple of questions. Why are you detaining my client? Because we know all the time that you can just be walking down the street, not doing anything wrong, and they'll come up to you. But by law, you're not required to show them or tell them who you are. And if that's the situation, then your attorney is going to absolutely protect that right then, and tell them, okay, are they suspected of committing a crime? What did they do? Okay, we're not showing you their ID. And you just stand there and continue to record it, because it's recording everything.
Okay, now what is it recording? What is it recording?
Okay, so this is also your body cam. Okay, all right, so we normally see in the interactions from the police point of view to the, as they say, prisoner, right, or offender. Now we're being able to see from the citizen's point of view to the officer, because a lot of times the way police is standing with their hands on their guns, all of these are intimidation factors. Okay, which most people don't even know this or understand this. An abuse of power is a violation of your civil rights. And an officer standing there threatening you with this posture and their hands on their firearm like they're ready to end your life for nothing at all because you were walking through the mall, is a violation of your civil rights. That is also being recorded on our device, as well as we have the body cam from the officer that now we're not just seeing one side of it. We're seeing both sides.
So again, I'm stopping you. You say, "Hey Siri, launch iWitness." Okay, so now it is launched, and now you got this dialogue with your attorney. But so at that moment, am I holding my phone up in a manner, and is it recording the minute that attorney contacts you?
Absolutely, instantaneously, it's recording.
And now my role as a customer of this app is I'm instructed now to hold this thing up into the.
Right. It's going to be on tutorial videos that we'll have in the app. You just read out there where there's tutorials. And in those tutorials, it'll tell you, okay, to hold your device chest high with both hands, right? Or something like that, right? And literally that's all you want to do.
No, and the reason I was asking you to demonstrate is because, I get a tutorial and all that. That's later when I got the thing. But I'm saying how, just for the common viewer to get an understanding of what this thing is. You launch this app, you say, "Hey Siri, contact iWitness." An attorney logs on, this thing then moves into record mode simultaneously.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think it's important. I mean, the tutorials on how to properly do it and all that, it's fine. But I just want to get a sense of what all's going on, because when we were talking about it, you mentioned that the attorney could be in dialogue because he's got your information, and then he engages the officer in questions or provides information, or, is my client suspected of something? Right. Okay, but we didn't say anything about video being recorded. And that's why I backed up, because it's like, wait a minute now, because that's huge. That's a huge part of this. I mean, this is
absolutely,
this is the power of the video, so absent that, I don't know whether it's an attorney or my cousin talking smack, trying to act like an attorney. You know what I mean? So that's the reason I wanted to challenge, and back.
Exactly. And when they do that, the great thing is the attorneys, their credentials will be there as well on the device. So the officer know that, no, this is a bona fide attorney. It's not we've got measures that all attorneys will be authenticated, and so there can't be someone faking or pretending to be an attorney, as well. Right. But yes, it's simultaneously when you hit that app, it goes straight into videoing mode, both video and audio mode. You don't have to do anything else. It does. The system does it all for you, and it's saved and downloaded. But you can't go into it to edit it. So if there's a case that it needs to, it goes to court for anything, this video can absolutely be used in court as evidence. So it was important to us to make sure that the video would be authenticated or can be authenticated, here through the app. So there's no question with the video. And also, we don't have to now worry about they can't release the video until a judge's approval. And all of these things that we hear have seen taking place, right? Because iWitness actually owns the video as well as the subscriber owns their footage, right? We can release that video to media outlets whenever and we are going to do that. We're not going to sit back and hold anything. If there's anything
so let me ask you this. So when it's being recorded on the device, is it also simultaneously being recorded and uploaded into the cloud? Okay. Absolutely. And the reason I ask that is that's the very system that we are working on right now. That's the reason I prefer this over the other video conferencing thing, because when we are doing this, it is being uploaded a direct file, so a better quality than the one we're looking at right now. I'm gonna get the raw the minute the interview's over. I get the reel, and then I can work with that. Okay, so yeah, that's good. Yep. That's good news, man. I am very excited for you, and your vision to come up with this. And I do believe it's much needed. So what I'm going to ask you is that once you get this thing going, I don't want you to become so big that you won't come back and talk to me, because I am anxious to have a follow-up report the minute you launch this thing, maybe 30 days, just to see what growth, how many subscribers, and again, at that point, we should be able to, and I would invite you on to do a demonstration of the actual app itself, and we'll run through the same scenario, and then you can literally walk through those steps, because I want to do everything I can to get the message out and to have everybody get this app, because I don't really know a single person that could not benefit from using this kind of technology, whether they are black or white. I don't know a single person who could not benefit from having this technology. Right. So.
Right. And I totally agree. It's something that is universal, from that perspective. Right. And there's a lot of things that'll be coming down the pipe, this is what we call the MVP, right? The minimum viable product is the initial launch with the this version of it where the attorneys are there, but there's going to be other features added on later that on some key elements that we want to do our part to try to help as well. Everything from sex trafficking, and things like that. So the plans are, we're going to stage where we add different things into this app, but without diluting the app, or without putting so many bells and whistles in it, essentially, right? That it becomes a tool that's it becomes too complicated, right? People don't want to deal with it because of all these layers. We will never lose focus of its primary mission, and want to make sure that we can help as many people as we can in all areas that we can. And if it takes where this app needs to stay essentially just for what it is, and that's it with nothing else, and there needs to be something else created for these other future endeavors, then that's what we'll do, because the primary focus is to save lives, protect people, and make sure people make it home at the end of the day, from a minor traffic stop or a jaywalking charge or whatever it may be, that people can go home. That's, because we break the law, every time we break the law should not equate to a death certificate.
Absolutely. Well, Bradley,
Bradley,
this has been great, man. And I'm so glad to have you on here. Cause like I said, when I first came across this story, I was like, man, I really, really want to talk about this, because I see that it could be definitely a game changer. And moving us towards a more just and equal society. So, man, I wish you all the best on this, and I wish you continued success, and I hope you guys are able to continue cranking, and I hope you're able to meet your deadline and getting this thing out of here this next month, because there are people that are in need of it now.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and I want to tell you, absolutely, I appreciate you taking the reaching out to us and reaching out to my team here to do this interview. And I can assure you, regardless to where iWTNS is in 30, 45 days, if you want us back for an interview, we are more than welcome and more than honored to also come back and do a follow-up with you as well.
Well, Bradley, you have a wonderful day, sir. And again, thank you for sharing some time with us and letting us know about this wonderful work that you are engaged in, and this app that's going to save lives.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.